So, quick question before we start. Has there ever been a game that you've played that has just fundamentally pissed you off? Like a game so unbelievably frustrating that you basically wish you never spent time on it in the first place? Like, not even, you didn't even try to like it or anything, or something like you genuinely went in with relatively high expectations, only to just straight up lose interest more and more, and walk away frustrated every time you put the game down. Honestly, the more I say it out loud, the more possible it really feels like nowadays. With how vast of a gaming landscape that it's become, there's no doubt in my mind we found at least one or two games that have just pissed us off. And for me, the most recent experience I had was with a game known as Secrets of Mana. A title I was originally very excited to play, as a lot of people I know, while going through my RPG journey, called it a classic. But the more I played of this game, the more and more it just made me mad. And more I just wanted this game to be over with. But why? What on earth could have possibly made me this mad? Was there anything even likable about this title if it made me as frustrated as it did? Well, how about I just stop yapping here and now and get into it. Welcome to my review of Secrets of Mana. So, fun little fact before we start. I was originally going to start this off with the same kind of joke I did with Xenosaga Episode 2, where I basically say there's nothing to really like about it, but I didn't want to use the same joke twice in a row, so now I'm just going to talk about what Secret of Mana did well. First off, the graphics are downright incredible. Going from the 8-bit graphic restrictions of the Game Boy to having doubled the power now that it was on the Super Nintendo and a 16-bit game, you could tell the team really wanted to go all out, and boy oh boy, they sure did. So many towns, and especially the dungeons, are immensely well designed and look downright sexalicious. And like the game that came before it, one of its strongest aspects was all of the little animation details in things like the weapons, every one of them having their own swing speed and charge move that look very nice to see executed on screen, and of course, the dancing merchants that became iconic with this franchise. But what got the biggest glow up in the visuals was the spells, as now, not only were there way more in the series in comparison to the first game, but they all had their own set of animations that were all immensely pleasing on the eyes. Not to say there aren't problems with the visuals, I'll get to those later, but you can really tell how much they wanted to go out with this one now that they had stronger hardware. Another area that was shown was just how good the monster designs were. They moved around the area a lot more, and were far more detailed in comparison to the Game Boy counterpart. And while all that is well and good, they weren't the only things that got a change. The gameplay had gotten its own revisions as well. And before I get into this, I'm going to say right now, I didn't like the combat of Mana. I think it's pretty terrible. It has a few good ideas, but for the most part, I hated almost every second I was playing the game. However, like I said, there were some aspects of the gameplay I really liked. For one, I like how magic works in this game. So, in comparison to something like Adventures where you just got a spell and it would get stronger the more you put into the magic stat, Secret's magic is tied to getting stronger the more you use it. Basically, how spells work in this game is, as you get your hands on these magical spirits, they will give you a variety of spells that are different for the two characters that use magic in your team. One character has mostly spells that are based around healing or stat increases, while the other party member gets attack spells. And the more you use these specific spells, the more you can level up the spirit, so they can either do more damage, heal more, or the spells last longer. I like systems like this, as it actively encourages you to use more than one spirit, so you can have an evenly balanced power hierarchy. The level up system also goes for the weapons you get as well, where with every level of weapon, you get a new bar so that you can use a stronger special charge up attack. Again, cool system that incentivizes you to use different weapons so you can see all of the cool charge abilities. I also like that this game included the multiplayer function. Basically, you can have 3 party members in this game, and you can have 2 other people hook up controllers and do couch co-op to play through the game together. It's an optional thing, sure, but it's cool. Couch co-op RPGs have basically become completely non-existent nowadays, so it was nice to play a game that reminded me of that era. I still think my favorite utilization of it is in the Crystal Chronicles games, but other than that, this one did it well. Outside of that, I don't really have anything else to say in terms of positives for combat. Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said I didn't like it all that much. But one thing I did like, however, was how much the story had improved in this one. To be fair, it isn't hard to improve from the original game story, considering it was barely there in the first place. And while Secret's story isn't exactly mind-blowing, it's nice to see them incorporate more of a plot in here. My favorite aspect being one of the team members, the female so lovingly known as Bitch, since I could name her whatever I wanted, was searching for the love of her life, who was taken by the enemy. And you're accompanied by the sprite that I so endearingly named, who lost his memories and is trying to figure out what to do. So they go with you. Again, it's not crazy or anything, but it's nice to see these characters have actual goals in comparison of just going along with whatever you want because the plot had them to. Another part of the story is that the antagonist is a lot better. The Empire is still more just a goal to defeat, sure, but it's nice to have them actively interacting in the narrative with you more compared to the adventures where the villain would just kind of show up sparingly. This game also went out of its way to introduce some recurring characters that messed with you on your journey. It helped a lot to make it feel like the Emperor was always a constant threat that you were always clashing with. The increased screen presence made me actually care more about beating them in comparison to Julius and his cronies. Outside of that, though, I really don't have anything else to say about the story, so I'm going to talk about another flex this game had, and that was just how damn good the soundtrack was. So Adventure soundtrack was composed by Kenji Ito. I mentioned that in the video. But he wasn't brought back to work on this one. Instead, the soundtrack creation went to none other than Hiroki Kikuta. And I'm not gonna lie, he knocked it out of the fucking park here. Tracks like A Bell is Tolling and The Dark Star are absolutely fantastic, but I'd say my favorite track from the game is Phantom in a Rose. The soft, almost haunting melody that just fits perfectly with the atmosphere it plays in. If there's one thing from the soundtrack that you want to check out, go listen to Phantom in a Rose. It's worth it, trust me. And really, that's all I have to say in terms of pros. Again, I had way more negatives, so I think it's about time we got into those now. Alright, so it's finally time to start getting into the negatives. And since I don't really have anything negative to say about how the game looks, considering to me that was honestly one of the only saving graces of the title, I'm going to get right into how it plays the most and why that pissed me off in general. I hate Secret of Mana's combat. Not dislike, not get irritated. I hate this gameplay. And I want to say, more than anything, my severe dislike of it does not come down to me being like a purist or something. I love gameplay of all kinds. And I also understand that this title was also a product of its time. It does not have the refinement a lot of other action RPGs nowadays have. Although, it being a part of its time does not mean it should be exempt from criticism. And I am gonna be bitching a lot. So let me break down piece by piece why I don't like this gameplay. For starters, the percentage system. I fucking hate it. So the idea behind the percentage system is that instead of just swinging willy-nilly, the power of your swing is based around a percentage. Saving up to 100 lets you swing at full strength and do a decent amount of damage to enemies. It's an interesting idea on paper, I admit, and I'm guessing it was added so we could make the combat more tactical. But that doesn't mean it's good. Like, at all. Cause, here's a little thing about that. If you attack, whenever it's not 100%, you don't do any damage. You still don't get the wrong idea, you do damage, but it's beyond microscopic. And it stays microscopic. No matter how high your level is, no matter how good your weapon level becomes, if you don't attack when it's at full, you are going to do minuscule levels of damage to literally everything. As a result, every single fucking battle in this game that you want to use your weapon for just devolves into you hitting them once, standing there like a cuck watching your girl get taken, and then hitting the enemy again. This basically takes every fight, I mean every fight in this game, and doubles to triples the length as a result. This game feels like it's 5 to 8 hours longer than necessary solely due to this kind of bullshit being into the combat. And when I say this out loud, you probably just say to yourself, yeah, you fuckwit, why don't you just use magic that fixes all your problems? You're funny. And kind of dumb if you think that magic is able to fix it, because magic doesn't get a pass either. Because, oh my god, this game's magic comes with its own set of issues. For one, magic has its own balancing issue, but this time, on the other end of the spectrum, kinda like me. So, in Secrets of Mana, every boss fight and enemy does have certain weaknesses to magic elements like fire or lightning spells, or, cock magic, everyone's certain favorite spell. It happens. Some enemies just can't handle giant fireballs to the face like the gigantic pussies that they are. Unfortunately, the magic becomes way too strong, way too easily. See, if you use any sort of leveled up of magic against bosses, you basically just kill them in under 2 minutes. Magic is so broken that boss fights can literally be done in seconds if you have the right magic spell leveled up. As a result, this gameplay either becomes a tug-of-war side of either it being so long it becomes tedious, or you're killing enemies and bosses so quickly, you just kind of feel unsatisfied as a result. Nothing is worse than a game that makes everything either feel too long or too short, and Secret of Mana is a masterclass in somehow accomplishing both of those. And with those issues on the table, you're probably wondering to yourself, oh well, is that all the problems? No, it fucking isn't, because I haven't even gotten to the biggest issue with this game, and that is, without a doubt, the ridiculously long animation length. So I'm guessing that since this was on a new, much more powerful system, they really wanted to go all out in its visuals, so they added a lot of animations to the game. And you know what? It does show the power of the game itself, and the animations are very visually appealing. But they also completely fuck up the gameplay. Not only are so many animations just way too long, to the point where basically 90% of these fights later on feel like getting in and out of animations, but because of said animation length, you're actually able to get stun locked in this game by enemies. Like a lot of stun locks. Like a lot of stun locks. And it leads to a ridiculous amount of deaths as a result of this game just unfairly locking you in animation hell. You can also do this with a few boss fights yourself, if you know what you're doing, but trust me, it is an aggravating slog to get through this game when they lock you in it, and very, very few bosses are worth spending the time to learn the patterns on when you can just kill them with magic. I cannot tell you just how much bullshit I experienced from this game, because the wolves or whatever flying enemy just stun locked me, and I couldn't do anything about it. I probably came close to throwing my Switch halfway across the room more than like 20 times. And before you ask, no, your party members don't make the experience better. In fact, I'd argue they make the entire experience worse. So while your party members are AI controlled, you can actively change up how they perform, similar to something like Kingdom Hearts 1, where if you go and mess with their settings, they do different things. But boy oh boy, does that not help in the slightest. If you don't change anything about them, they just kind of stand around doing nothing like absolute liabilities. And if you push them into the attack aspect more, get ready for them to just bum rush every enemy to the point where they will actively ignore you trying to leave the room just to attack an enemy that they sometimes just can't even hit. That also doesn't help that this AI will just also get caught on walls out of nowhere, and you have to go back over to them, because if you don't bring your entire party with you, you cannot move forward. It's awful, plain and simple. It was easily one of the most frustrating and downright unfun things I've played through as a result of all of these mechanics kicking you in the dick over and over until you're pissing blood for a week. I cannot undersell how much this game made me angry with all of the nonsense it had, to the point where I consider just dropping this marathon as a result. I hated it that much. At no point was I ever having fun with gameplay. Every boss I fought just sucks because it's either way too annoying to deal with or just way too easy to the point where you're not even looking at the screen. Everything about this game from a gameplay perspective fucking blows. And that is all I have to say about my cons. So how about we move over to the final thoughts before I blow a gasket? And with that, we are at the end of the video. And with it, I can fully say that if you couldn't pick it up, I did not like this game in the slightest. While I can, without a doubt, appreciate it on a technical and musical level, I gotta admit, as a video game, it's probably one of the most painful experiences I've had in a good long while. Sorry if I'm stepping on your nostalgia with this, but I genuinely don't care. Fuck your childhood. This game actively hurt to get through. And from the bits that I've played of Trials of Mana, it's infinitely better than whatever this was trying to be. And that's why I have absolutely no problem giving this game an unbelievably pitiful 3.5 out of 10. I really wish I could have liked this, but I just didn't, plain and simple. Honestly, I don't like being as back-to-back negative as I've been. When I made this channel, I didn't really want to do a whole lot of negative videos, but unfortunately that's kind of been happening more often than not with what I've been playing. If you're tired of it as well, don't worry, the next video won't be as negative. But with that said, if you want to see that next video when it drops, make sure you like and subscribe down below. We're on the way to 1K and I think we can do it this year. Hit the bell for notifications for when my videos go up. If you want to chat with me or the rest of my amazing community, either leave a comment down below to help me in the algorithm, or come check out my Twitch or join the Discord. I'll leave links to both in the pinned comment down below. Have a wonderful day, folks, and I'll see you next time for more RPG content.